Back in 1992, Chrysler launched a new series of sedans with a new design they dubbed Cab Forward, a radical look that would evolve as they continued into the early 21st century. Leading the way was the Dodge Intrepid, along with 5 other model lines that made Chrysler a serious competitor in the full-size sedan wars of the 90s. But by 2004, it was all over. This is the story of the success and failure of the Dodge Intrepid and all of its siblings. This is my old car. Prior to the Intrepid's launch in 1993, Dodge's largest sedan wasn't really a Dodge. It was originally developed by American Motors, or AMC. Chrysler acquired AMC in 1987, and soon afterwards started remarketing AMC cars as Dodge and Eagle models. In 1990, the Monaco name was reintroduced after a 12-year absence to become Dodge's full-size sedan offering, but its bland, squared-off styling wasn't much better than the car it replaced, the Dodge Diplomat. Chrysler launched the Dodge Intrepid in mid-1992 as a 1993 model, as part of its new front-wheel drive LH platform. The LH concept can be traced back as far as 1987 with the Lamborghini Portofino concept during the short time that Chrysler owned Lamborghini. At 17.5 feet long, the 93 Intrepid was 1.5 feet longer than the Monaco. The 93 LH platform also included the Chrysler Concorde and the Eagle Vision, the first car of the new Eagle brand that was entirely a Chrysler design, not made by AMC or Mitsubishi. All 3 cars were awarded together among Car and Driver's 10 Best list for 1993. Whereas the Concorde and Vision were nearly identical, the Intrepid took on a much different front-end look, eliminating the grille and instead pulling in air through its signature Dodge crosshair opening in the front bumper. The 93 Intrepid became the flagship of Dodge's new ad slogan, The New Dodge, with actor Edward Herrmann becoming their most prominent pitchman.
To make Dodge Intrepid more spacious, we moved the wheels that normally go here, out, and back to here. Up front, the wheels that were here were moved out to here.
Although a few years later, the Chrysler Concorde ad campaign took a slightly different approach.
Mom, how did I get my name?
We named you after the place where you were conceived.
So, that's why I'm named Savannah. But Mom, how did she get the name Concorde?
Intrepid initially offered 2 trim levels, the base and sportier ES trim. The ES trim stood apart from the base model with contrasting colored rocker panels and integrated fog lamps. Engine choices were either a 3.3-liter 153 horsepower V6 or a 3.5-liter 214 horsepower V6, each mated to a 4-speed automatic. Starting in 1995, a new manual shifting option, dubbed the Auto Stick, was available on the ES trim and also on the Eagle Vision. The Chrysler Concorde, intended to be the more luxury-oriented model, never offered the Auto Stick. Starting in 1994, the Chrysler brand expanded its LH car lineup with 2 more models, the LHS and the New Yorker. Although the LHS name was new to Chrysler for 1994, the New Yorker name had been part of Chrysler's lineup since 1940. The LHS and New Yorker were nearly identical, except for the LHS being a 5-seater with a floor-mounted shifter, and the New Yorker seating 6 with a front-row bench seat and a steering column-mounted shifter. Both the LHS and New Yorker differed from the Concorde with a unique rear-end design and a more upright rear window. They also were offered with the larger 3.5-liter V6 engine. The LH version of the New Yorker would only last 2 model years, with the LHS being offered with both 5- and 6-seat configurations starting in 1996. Meanwhile, the Eagle Vision, which was nearly a copy of the Chrysler Concorde, ended its run in 1997. Less than a year later, the entire Eagle brand was scrapped, which by that point had only one other model, the Eagle Talent. 1998 marked the beginning of the second-generation LH cars, with the Dodge Intrepid leading the way, again landing on Car and Driver's top 10 list. The new model gained 2 inches in length and a much more rounded aerodynamic shape. The front end retained the same hood design that stretched to the cross-haired front bumper, but now with larger headlamps and a much larger rear window that extended over half of the interior trunk space. The V6 engines were also new for this generation as well, switching from iron block to aluminum block, and in 3 sizes: a 200 horsepower 2.7-liter standard on the base trim, a 225 horsepower 3.2-liter standard on the ES trim, and starting in 1999, a 234 horsepower 3.5-liter on the new RT trim. All Intrepids, including the base model, had the same side rocker panel design, with the ES and RT sporting a different front fascia with fog lamps. The 2.7-liter engine would later prove to be a huge liability for Chrysler, a few years after the LH models ended production. Many of the engines suffered catastrophic failures due to oil sludge buildup, which eventually led to over 5 class action lawsuits by 2009. Although the 3.3 and 3.5-liter V6s did not share the same issue, the 2.7-liter's failure caused irreparable damage to the Intrepid's reputation as a whole, and a significant loss loss in value for all the LH models of that generation. The Chrysler Concorde also went through a significant redesign in 1998, extending 5 inches longer than the 98 Intrepid. The Concorde's front and rear ends and the rear roofline contributed to a significantly more luxury-oriented look than the more sporty Intrepid. The LHS started back up in 1999, with essentially looking the same as the Concorde except for a larger, rounder front grille. The LHS would only continue to 2001, with a new Concorde Limited trim taking over the LHS for the following 2 years. The second generation LH cars also spawned another Chrysler model, the 300M. The 300 name was a reintroduction to the famous Chrysler 300 letter series, which had last used the name 300L in 1965, hence the latest 300 taking on the next letter in the alphabet. Besides having a front-end design that was unique from the other LH cars, the biggest difference was in the rear, which had been shortened 5 inches from the Intrepid and had a more squared-off trunk lid. The 300M also only offered the 253 horsepower 3.5-liter V6, so it probably took away some potential Intrepid RT sales. The same 3.5-liter was also in the Plymouth Prowler, starting in its 1999 model year. Oh, and did I mention that I have a second YouTube channel that is dedicated entirely to the Prowler? Check out the link to my other channel in the description below. In its last couple years, the Intrepid was also offered with a police package, which came standard with the 3.5-liter V6 and of course all the upgrades that a cop car needs. But its sales were minuscule compared to the much more popular police car models at the time, the Ford Crown Victoria. The Ford was rear-wheel drive, which is a better choice for a cop car since a runaway curb can inflict less damage than a front drive car, although Dodge has definitely redeemed itself since then with its rear-wheel drive Charger cop cars. By 2004, the remaining LH cars were the Intrepid, Concorde, and 300M, and in the last couple years their sales had started to dwindle, and that new cab-forward design was no longer looking so new. Chrysler was moving in a new direction, which included moving away from front-wheel drive to an all-new rear-wheel drive platform. The successor to the Intrepid wasn't actually a direct replacement since it wasn't a sedan, but instead a wagon, the Dodge Magnum, which in addition to V6 engine options also offered a 5.7-liter Hemi V8. Sales initially were good considering Dodge had no four-door sedan available, but the Magnum only remained in production until 2008. This may be because in 2006, a four-door sedan replacement for the Intrepid was released, the Dodge Charger, and once that was available, interest in the wagon soon dropped off. For the Chrysler brand, both the 300M and the Concorde were replaced by the 300. This was a complete departure from the cab-forward look with a more squared-off front and rear end, and a high belt line, and an available Hemi V8. This proved to be a winning formula which quickly made the LH cars a relic of the past. I originally owned two different Intrepids, a first-gen 1995 and a second-gen 1998, both in the ES trim. The 95 Intrepid I ended up buying as a low-mileage used model, about a year after making a significant mistake in buying a 94 Dodge Caravan. The Caravan worked fine, I just couldn't stand driving it. By that point the Intrepid had been on the market for a couple years, and I preferred its styling far better than the other American competition at the time, such as the Chevy Lumina and the Ford Taurus. Of course there were Japanese competitors as well, although smaller, such as the Honda Accord and Toyota Camry, but at the time I had never considered buying a Japanese car, although that would eventually change. I was overjoyed with the 95 Intrepid and loved its styling along with plenty of space for my two young boys. But when I saw the first ads for the 98 Intrepid, I fell in love all over again, and my older Intrepid didn't seem so special anymore. Although when I look at photos of the second-gen Intrepid now, I realize that it really took the Jelly Bean look to new heights, as compared to how the Ford Taurus was once known for. I bought one of the first 98 red ES models, and for the first year or so, it never caused me any trouble. But then one day, my wife was using it away from home, and it wouldn't start. The battery was completely dead. The battery itself was an oddball in that you couldn't see it in the engine bay. The windshield extended so far forward that the front hood was relatively short for the car's overall length, so as a result, the battery could only be accessed by removing the right front wheel and removing an access panel in the wheel well. Extensions for the positive and negative terminals were extended to the top of the engine bay so that you could jump-start the battery. After being towed, the dealer determined that the battery had overheated and melted some of the wiring, so I got a new battery under warranty. But sometime during my third year of ownership, the car stranded us again for the same exact issue. We went with a Japanese car for its replacement, which will be the topic of my next episode. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw here, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. If you used to own a car from the 80s to early 2000s that you almost never see today and would like to see it showcased in a future episode, put a reply in the comments or email me at the address shown here. See you next time.